the girls.
Hi everyone. Well, you've asked me what I thought about Alex Jones versus Piers Morgan, so I'm going to address that. And also, Obama's gun control plan, is it really going to accomplish anything? So first of all, Alex Jones versus Piers Morgan. Well, Alex Jones went on the show and he started hammering out a lot of very good facts, and then he just kind of got more and more heated up and basically kind of lost his composure. You know, as far as I'm concerned, yes, I'm sure that Piers Morgan, being a British tea-drinking, crumpet-eating, civilized person, probably didn't feel very comfortable with this. I know that they canceled the third segment, and Alex Jones apparently kind of got targeted or harassed by the mayor's goons after, he said. But aside from that and the drama of it all, I think that Alex Jones made a lot of very valid points about guns, gun ownership, and gun control. And Piers was really trying to not let him make those points. He's trying to kind of trick him into admitting that UK has almost no gun murders, whereas look at America. So it must be the guns, because you look at the statistics. I'll show them to you. Total crimes by country. Wow, look at that. United States is right at the top. Murders with firearms. Wow, United States is number 4. Number of guns per 100 residents. Whoa, the United States is right at the top. Well, that must obviously mean that the more guns you have, the more gun-related murders you have. Must be the guns. What else could it be? Well, I think it's a little more complicated than that. Actually, I think it's much more complicated than that. There's a lot to it. Obama wants to re-implement and strengthen the assault weapons ban. Is that really going to solve the problem? Well, if you look at what kind of guns are actually used in most of the homicides, you'll see that by and large, it's handguns, not assault weapons. Wikipedia statistics from 2005 says that 75% of the 10,100 homicides committed using firearms in the U.S. were committed using handguns, compared to 4% with rifles and 5% with shotguns, and the rest with unspecified firearms. So how much is banning assault rifles really going to do if they only play a very small role in the overall gun-related homicide rate? My guess is it probably wouldn't make much difference. And then the next thing that they'll probably do is say, wow, look, the homicides haven't gone down, so obviously we need to ban handguns. And that's exactly what everyone who's standing up for the Second Amendment is saying, that they're just coming after your guns. And, you know, that's probably what they're doing. So let's look a little bit more at the statistics. But who's committing these murders? Who are the victims? You know, what's going on here? Well, right here on the same Wikipedia page, you can see this. Most of the people committing these murders are in the 14 to 24 year age range. Most of the homicide offenders are young and male, and most of them are also black. Yes, I'm bringing race into this because this is a very, very important part of the big picture. Here is a study called White, Black, and Latino Homicide Rates. Why the difference? They say the racial homicide differential in the United States is extraordinarily large, with minorities exhibiting much higher homicide rates than non-Latino whites. And to give you some specific statistics, differences in composition by group. Table 2 shows the means and standard deviations for the independent and dependent variables for the white, black, and Latino populations, and reveals the large differences in composition of each group. The homicide rates in 1990 for each respective group highlight the striking differences in levels of violence. In 1990, the average black homicide rate was 33.7 per 100,000, a rate about 8 times that of whites at 4.3 per 100,000, and almost 3 times that of Latinos. And to put this even more into perspective, consider that black Americans only make up about 13.6% of the population. 13.6% of the population, but their young men account for the vast majority of homicide by handgun deaths. Look, America, you have a serious problem. I mean, this is a country that just came out of an apartheid system just 50 years ago. And you've got to admit that you have a serious problem when it comes to race. There's some very big inequalities. Black people are much more likely to be sent to prison. If they're more likely to be arrested and to be convicted of an offense and to be given longer and heavier sentences than a white person in the same situation. Their neighborhoods are like open air prisons, almost these projects. Here's an article on the projects. Life in the projects, prison-like conditions outside of prison. That's where they live and where they go to school. It's not any better. There's something known as a school-to-prison pipeline. Of course, this doesn't only affect black people, but white people as well. But you can be sure that in the poorest neighborhoods, you're going to have the worst problem with the school-to-prison pipeline. And you might also like to see this interview, Parents of Murdered Children, where the mothers of murdered young black men talk about how the judicial system is totally ineffective. How when their children get murdered, they're straight arrow kids who just happen to live in this poor neighborhood, get murdered. The kids who do the murdering, who are also other young black males, and because this is a poor black neighborhood. Well, these kids who do the killing, the judges will let them out on bail. They give them low sentences. I think there's like a conspiracy to really keep black people down, to encourage violence in their communities, to bring drugs into their communities. And we can't just overlook this. So what is banning assault rifles going to do to solve this problem? I don't think it's going to do very much at all. And the other thing is, you have, the majority of these gun-related homicides, which are committed with handguns, which are black-on-black violence among young men, often gang-related. Then you have these very high-profile school shootings. And most of these happen to involve white middle-class kids. It's a different socioeconomic class and different racial group. And these get a lot of attention. Well, it's very shocking when a lot of people get killed at school or at the mall or wherever. But what I want to address, though, is here, check out this video. It's called The True Source of Random and Mass Shootings and Violence. This, I think, is another piece of the puzzle. Is the fact that America, yes, you have the highest rate of gun ownership per capita and the highest crime and murder rates in some respects. But you also have the highest rate of consumption of pharmaceuticals. I've heard before that America has 5% of the world's population and consumes 80% of the world's pharmaceuticals. And some of the very popular pharmaceuticals are things like antidepressants. And these are known to be very dangerous for young people. They can induce a kind of mania, suicidality, and even like a murderous rage. And this can happen in as much as 6% of people who are taking these medications. And this is especially dangerous for young people. And a lot of young people are taking them, even children. Okay, so what's happening here is if you look at the history of the school shootings and these mass shootings, you'll find that a lot of them are connected to the use of pharmaceuticals. It could be that the person was, crazy and unstable, and that's why they were taking drugs or getting prescriptions. It could be that the prescriptions themselves were making them unstable and violent. But there is a connection. And while we're on the subject, I'd like you to also go check this out, Dead Wrong, How Psychiatric Drugs Can Kill Your Child. In case you don't know how very dangerous they can be, especially for young people, check this out because well, they really can induce serious personality changes, delusions, and suicidality and violence, as I mentioned before. So Obama, I'm not really sure how you think you're going to solve the problem by focusing just on the guns, specifically the self-reloading, or also known as assault weapon type guns. I don't really see how this is going to solve the problem. They comprise only a very small percentage of the guns used in gun-related homicides, and you're not addressing at all the problem of who is committing these and who's a victim of them. The problems like racism, systemic, institutionalized racism, and poverty. And the other issue that you should probably be looking at is the role that psychiatric drugs play. So, as Spock would say, your approach is not logical. I don't think it's going to solve the problem. Anyway, you guys, let me know what you think. Would banning any type of guns really solve the problem? Or is this just a gun grab? Let me know what you think. And thanks for listening to me. And I'll see you next time.